he's thinking about his future. He told me the other day that he's probably going to go into coaching. He's living currently in Providence in Rhode Island with his wife Amy Rudolph, who's an American Olympian, a US Olympian. But he'll have to think about the great yonder. And he's hoping to go coaching maybe with some of the schools down a division or two, not in the higher division as Providence and Iona are, where most of the Irish athletes would be. Mark Christie going through there, very far back at this point of the race. This is quite a narrow course, so it's difficult if you don't go off very hard. It's difficult to get a place. But I think as the race goes on and the athletes find that the course is getting a little bit stickier and the pace and the distance take its toll, athletes might be able to move through, but not as much as people might think.
You might have seen just there Martin Fagan discarding the gloves. Obviously the things have heated up for him nicely. Sanchez at the end of the first lap is the leader. I've credited with the same time of the first 6 athletes, 2 minutes and 59 seconds. And Fagan is in that group of 6, which also includes Stéphane Joly of Switzerland, Sebastian Hallmann of Germany, Dries Bousselot of Belgium, and Daniele Meucci of Italy.
And there's the defending champion, Sergei Lebed. He worked his way through this, doesn't mind what, he's won this title on all sorts of conditions. Fast, dry courses, as we had last year in Toro, or mucky courses. Doesn't make any difference to the big man from the Ukraine. And the interesting thing about Lebed, he hasn't had a race since August. He's had no cross-country races, as we look at Martin Fagan, who hasn't had many cross-country races in the last few months, or the last few years either, concentrating on the road more now. But to get back to Lebed, he doesn't feel it's any disadvantage. He's been training at altitude, so he's hopeful that he can get back down again, and coming down here now will be helpful for him.
He had an injury earlier in the year and he missed a bit of training, but that rather compounded that by taking the time off. So it'll be interesting to see just how he does perform over the full distance. That's Fagan has taken control of things for himself at the front. No sign as yet of Mo Farah, who was back in the bunch behind the leading group. And look how gingerly they have to take that corner. It's very, very treacherous underfoot. Martin Fagan is right there with Joly of Switzerland and Sanchez of Spain.
And Mo Farah, I reckon, is about 18th or 19th there. He's just come back from altitude. He was in Ethiopia. He was originally from Somali, and himself and
for him. And there's Mo Farah on the outside, and there's Lebed in the middle of that group, and they're beginning to gather towards the front. They've only been going 5 minutes, so the race is nowhere near started completely, but they're the athletes who want to take higher positions are now having to find their way, work their way through the field. Fagan in second, third place there. I'm very interested to see how Mo Farah runs, because he had a disappointing Olympic Games, then he ran a couple of good races after that, and he started to look as though he was back to his very, very best. Then he went off training and stayed in Ethiopia for a while, and we haven't seen the evidence of what he did there. He finished 15th in the Great Ethiopian Run, but really, because that race is at altitude, you don't really know what that means in terms of overall fitness. So it'll be interesting to see how he competes against Mohammed Mustafa, who's been training with him out there in Ethiopia. It'll be interesting to see whether the altitude training actually has worked for Mo Farah.
Bren mentioned his part-time training partner, Mustafa Mohammed. He's wearing yellow vest. You can just see him moving through into about 10th place, just making his way through. Mo's about 3 places behind him, maybe just following him through. Lebed still a little further back. There you can see right on the outside, just deciding to get himself a little bit more involved in the race, in the blue of Ukraine with the yellow flashes. But it's still pretty, it's not sedate, it's a steady pace, but nobody's really tried to run away at this early stage, which probably wouldn't be too wise anyway. Sanchez is the early leader. And just going back through the British team, just to remind you, we saw Frank Tickner there, Lee Merrion running very much alongside him, Scott Overall also in the team, Mike Skinner, who's 29 years of age now, Mike, and Phil Wicks as well. So, as I said before, the experience is there with this team, and you probably would need a couple of them to have an exceptional run, I would say, to get in the team prize.
I was just going to say that you need 1 or 2 of them to run better than they've ever run before, because it would be great for the British team to come home with a clean set of medals from every single event, but this one's going to be demanding. This one's going to be tough. There's Sergei Lebed in the yellow and blue vest of Ukraine, just taking a bit closer order, and Mo Farah realizes that, Martin Fagan realizes that, and so both of them and Mustafa Mohammed both start to pick up the pace. And here's Mo Farah on the outside there, just following Sanchez, getting himself into the right place, and now the talent is beginning to gather. 7 minutes of running, 3,000 metres, just less than 3,000 metres behind them, still 7,000 metres remaining, but they're getting competitive at a very early stage here.
Yeah, so certainly the big names move towards the front. There's Mohammed in the yellow, there's Mo Farah in the British vest, Lebed there as well. Fagan just watching at the back of that group, and suddenly it all starts to break up a little bit. Temperature's been pretty good, but conditions underfoot have just about held together. We thought there's Bob Tari of France as well, another extremely experienced world-class athlete. Conditions are not too bad, they haven't broken up too much, and they just saw going through there, Spain leading the team race, but Britain were very much involved. I think it was third or fourth when it went through. But it hasn't cut up too much. It's really only on the corners, on the tight corners, that it's got very muddy. The rest of the running isn't too bad at all. This Parkland course holding together quite nicely. You can see why the athletes enjoy running here. It is a little bit twisty, turny in parts. However, there's plenty of good running to be had.
Well, I think you need to be there now if you're going to figure in the medals, because the big boys are getting to the front. The pace is beginning to lift. The opposition is realizing that you're not going to get too far, and there's no gaps being opened yet as we look down the field. But there, Martin Fagan, Silva of Spain, they run one against one another in the Great North Run, and Fagan beat him that day, so I'm sure he's confident. I think he's confident of trying to win this race. Mo Farah behind him. There's Sergei Lebed in second place, so Bezabeh moving through, Mohammed Mustafa as well. So interestingly now, there's Bob Tari, they're all getting there, and the British team are following Mo Farah in decent positions here, but it'll be interesting to see what comes up when the lap scorers give us the indication of where the team is. It's good technology, using the chip system will give you an update every lap or so, and Martin Fagan, as you can see, in the green vest of Ireland, desperate to get on with this race. Come on, let's go faster, let's have a few less in the group. You look around, and at the early stages, every time anybody goes near him, he's stretching the pace and moving it along, and you can see he just wants to get on and get competitive. There's far too many in that group. You need some gaps, you need some pace, and there, the 7 times champion Sergei Lebed, the specialist, the athlete who often gauges his season, tries to get himself ready only for this event. He looks as though he's in good shape. He hasn't run since July. We haven't seen a result from him since July. Behind him, Mohammed. Fagan still holding off anybody who comes near him. And Silva, the Portuguese athlete, who's a very, very good athlete too. And just suddenly you just sense, I wish Mo Farah he's there in about 6th place. I'm pleased he's there, because I think that's the group where the winner's going to come from.
Yes, and one athlete we haven't mentioned, I mentioned him right at the very beginning there, this Spaniard in the red vest there, that's Bezabeh, former Ethiopian, became a Spanish citizen last year, having moved there 4 years ago and competed in the Olympic Games. Now there you can see Britain, that's very, very good at the moment. They're in 3rd place, holding off Belgium. Spain and France doing well. Spain right up there in terms of the team race, and packing very well. Now what needs to happen now, you can see Frank Tickner there. Lee Merrien's having a very good race as well. He's close to that lead group, so need to stay in there. There's Merrian actually going just going backwards a little bit, and that's what we don't really want to happen. So I think I've seen all 6 of them go through, probably in what, about the top 30 or so. But each position, each lap, that team race is going to change. But Frank Tickner certainly has set off well. He's not far behind Mo Farah. Just there he is, just on the back of that lead group. In fact, Lee Merrian just dropping off. There he is, just going through wearing 133. So British team looking to continue the success that we've seen in the other age groups, and in the, obviously particularly in the women's events. Mo Farah looking for the individual medal, and a long way still to go. There's Mike Skinner making his way through the field, and well, if he could pick up a few That would be good as well. Scott Overall and Phil Wicks, the other two that I haven't mentioned just lately. But just interesting, they've settled down again at the front then. There's some gloves, or was it a hat just being discarded? And one other athlete I haven't mentioned either, Bren. The Dutch have won 2 races so far today. We've seen Susan Kauken and Hilde Kebet and Michael, shall I say Butter? That's how you spell it. I don't know, majority.
Actually, I'm looking here for the British.
He won the Gator cross country and beat many of the British guys, so he's going to be a bit of a benchmark for them, because he came over and won the Gator cross country event, which many of our guys ran in, and he's lying in about 8th and 9th. You just see him in the orange vest there, just off the back. Oh, there's a fall.
It looks like Fagan. Looks like Martin Fagan. That's a bad one for him. It's that tight corner. Mo Farah was pushing the pace along. I'm delighted to see Mo at the front now. He's looking across at his training partner, Mustafa Mohammed. They realise that Martin Fagan has fallen, so now Mohammed and Farah are stretching the pace because they don't want Fagan to come back, and I think they realised that. I think they knew what they were doing, and I think that was an important move. But I think this is a hugely important race for Mo Farah. He was disappointing in the Olympic Games. There's Fagan at the back. There they are, round the bend, round the corner, and it's very, very tight. It's very soft, and over goes Martin Fagan. Well, in cross-country running, that's what happens. Get up and start running again, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's got to be careful now if he just doesn't hold back too much and just gradually work his way through. But Farah realises one of the favourites and one of the dangers has taken a fall, and now Farah stretching it again into the bend, trying to get some pace going. And look at this. This is good running by Mo Farah. He won this race 2 years ago. I think he needs to do something similar today, just to demonstrate to himself that he's back at the world-class level that he was threatening.
And there's Lebed, who looks under a little bit of pressure. Frank Tickner just going through the picture. Mo Farah just tried to skirt through that bend there. Just got to be careful, maybe getting a clear sight of where you want to put your feet. It is so muddy around there. And then, as I said, there's still plenty of good running though underfoot. It's plenty of patches where it's quite nice. Now, this is the bit about Mo that sometimes I know the pair of us get a little bit infuriated about, isn't it? It's the looking around. And you know, I think when you make your move, get on with it and decide to have a go.
There's Mike Skinner representing Great Britain. I had to say that, Steve, because last summer I was at Ascot races and I came out and this guy came up to me and he said, you know, I watch your athletics on the television, and my nephew Mike Skinner runs all these races and you never mention him, so there's a mention of Mike Skinner.
He's actually moving through quite well, Mike Skinner, and as I said, I think he could well be the factor if he ends up as the 4th counter for us in terms of determining where the team medals will go. But just coming back to Mo, you know, he makes that little burst and then sits back a bit. It's almost a bit of, you know, here I am. Well, you know you're there. And you know Lebed, when he wins these races, he often doesn't do anything until he needs to. He just hangs around, and then when he decides to give it a bit of a go, off he goes. And here, Mo Farah is going to have to be aware here, because Mohammed, a man he knows very well indeed, the Swede who I think was disappointed not to have won this title before, is making a real bid here as we see the team standings. That's good news for Great Britain, because they've improved their position. They're actually closing down a little bit on the French, but a good gap appearing between Britain and the 4th place team. So as Mohammed forges on a little bit, Bezabe from Spain, 3 Spaniards in that top 10 or 12. There's Frank Tickner just going through, but the gaps just starting to appear a little bit. Lebed, the 7 times champion, in about 5th place at the moment. Scott Overall going just past Lee Merrion there. And there's Mike Skinner. So that's where that little group there of British athletes there, and Phil Wicks, the 6th counter. But the 3rd, 4th, 5th encounters, they've got to push each other on, push each other through. And if they can do that, they might even get better than the bronze medal. Who knows?
Well, the race getting competitive. If you were watching a track race over 10,000 metres, the athletes wouldn't be running a bit like this. They'd be running a single file at a steady pace, and they'd be just sharing the lead if they needed to set a pace. Here we are in a cross-country race, which is what I like about cross-country. So they're always somebody's always trying to get away. Somebody's always trying to mix the pace up, stretch the pace, try and get a gap, trying to open a few yards. Even though they're only about the halfway point here, this is a very competitive race. Mustafa Mohammed representing Sweden, Bezabe from representing Spain, Lebed, Ukraine, Mo Farah up and down the field, doesn't know whether he wants to lead or whether he wants to follow, but I still feel that this is a hugely significant race for Mo Farah. If he was to win this race today, I think it would be a step absolutely in the right direction, because he was disappointed. We were all disappointed by him not making the final of the Olympic Games, and you don't get many chances in the Olympic Games, and that was one of them for Mo Farah, who's our only world-class male distance runner that we've got at the moment, and we need, he needs to be more consistent in the big races.
He does, and if you're going to compete against the Kenyans and the Ethiopians, the Moroccans, etc., then you have to try and at least be the best in Europe, and this is what he's trying to do. Of course, took a silver medal on the track at the European Championships. He's got another World Championships on the track next summer in Berlin. And there's the team situation. There's only 10 points between France and Great Britain. Frank Tickner's having an excellent race. That's Peter Desmet. The home crowd haven't had too much to cheer here in Belgium, but Desmet has had an excellent winter so far. 25-year-old, former European under-23 medalist at the steeplechase on the track. And he was being tipped a little bit by, but obviously you'd expect the local newspapers to suggest that he could get amongst the medals, but when you looked at the big names that were here, thought maybe it might be a little bit too much for him. But he's running very well indeed. So Frank Tickner, he's in the top 10, Frank Tickner. And you talk about Mo Farah. I think, Bren, in recent years, the only other British athlete's got anywhere in the top, or into the top 10 in this event, in the senior men, I think it was Carl Kasker a few years back. But it's been a lean race for us. Again today, we've done very well in most of the age groups, very well. Particularly obviously in the women's event, and it's the senior men where there's just been that gap a little bit, with the exception of Mo. So it's good to see Frank Tickner going well, and hopefully if the others behind him can continue to move through the field, then at least they'll be rewarded with a team medal. There he is, just in a little bit of no man's land, but it looks as though he's got a couple of good athletes behind him. Is that Bob Tari behind him?
That's a very good performance by Tickner. He really is running well. There's the 7-time champion Sergei Lebed. And the group now, you can tell they're just beginning to settle now. They're past the halfway point. Tiredness is setting in. The exuberance of leading and following and changing pace catches up with you. And then now they're down to a big solid group. And now it's about gauging the effort, getting the tactics and positioning right. Not leading if you don't want to try and run away. If you want to run away from the field, then you obviously have to go in the lead. But the two ex-Somalian athletes, now Mo Farah of Somalia representing Great Britain, and Mustafa Mohammed, his training partner, another Somalian athlete who's come and to represent Sweden. Behind them, the Ethiopian athlete representing Spain. So no, even if it's the European Championship, Steve, the Africans, the athletes born in Africa, still have the edge, don't they?
Yes, still very much to the fore. My apologies to Bob Tari, he's at the back of that lead group there. So there's Mohammed stretching out, then Mo Farah, Bezabe, followed by Lebed. Then it's the Spaniard, Lamdassen, just behind him. Silva of Portugal, then Tari of France, Desmet of Belgium, and Butter from the Netherlands. And they've got a big gap then to Guerra of Spain and Frank Tickner just behind him. So they're being stretched out now. And Mohammed, I think, if I'm trying to remember, Bren, whether he tried this last time, whether he sort of pushed on 2-3 occasions and lost out in the end. He has a tendency to sometimes perhaps maybe be a little bit over exuberant as well. And he's another athlete with such a good finish. And I know sometimes if you're feeling so good in a race like this, if you get away and you're dominant and you move away, but if you're not in that position, look at Lebed. He's just taken a ride along there. He's just happy to let them do the work. I was reading some quotes from him during the week, and he said, look, why do I need to go at the front before it's necessary? I'll just stay involved, and I'll look to run strongly, I think it was that he said. And then when it comes to the important part of the race, where either he feels he wants to push on, or indeed he's just hanging on for a sprint finish, that's the only time you're going to see him go to the front.
Well, that's absolutely right, and that's what he knows what he's talking about. He's won it 7 times. Whether he's as good now as he was then, I'm not sure. But Silva of Portugal takes over. Mustafa Mohammed for Sweden in second place. Mo Farah responding nicely to that move by Silva. Then Bezabe representing Spain, and then Lebed and these now are racing again, and that's the difference. If this was a track race, nobody would be doing anything like this. They wouldn't be racing in the middle of the race, and here we are. They're now trying to open gaps. They're now trying to stretch away. I just noticed a big gasp from Sergei Lebed. He wasn't having enough. He was struggling there. Mustafa Mohammed in 4th place. He squandered a bit of energy up and down the field, but now Mo Farah, this is a move by Mo Farah. He's trying to win this race. I'm absolutely delighted to see that. He's settled, he's been in the leading group, and suddenly he's accelerated. He's been training in Ethiopia with Mustafa Mohammed. Bezabay, an athlete born in Ethiopia, in 2nd place, but this is Mo Farah's effort to try and win the race. Now, when you make the effort, you've got to keep it going. You can't just do it for a couple of 100 meters. You've got to keep going for the long way to really stretch and push yourself and test the others. Now, he's glancing over his shoulder a little bit early. I'm a little bit nervous about the move he's made, but he's obviously physically in very good shape. He's a great athlete. I think he can be an outstanding athlete if he gets everything right, including his tactics. And Mo Farah stretching out now as we look at Bob Tari further down the field. And Mo has laid his cards on the table. I want to win this race, and I'm going to try and win it.
Little further down, there's Gera. Frank Tickner, this is 10th and 11th places, I think. So Frank Tickner very close to a top 10 place, which would be an excellent run from him. The one thing I would say, Brendan, is that Mo, I think maybe quite smartly, I think he's realised he's getting through the mud better than the others, and he's used the mud a couple of times to make that bit of a gap. But it's not a significant gap at this point, and I'd still be nervous. To me, Lebed is still... he's still involved, and you're absolutely right. Mo Farah now has to make this tell. He's into... what he's got, just what, mile and a half, something like that to go. The next time round he'll be on to the last lap, and you just need to keep forging. If you can go into the last lap with a 30-40 metre lead, then the others start to think about the other medals. But he's really got to build on this. There you see, there's Lebed, realises that the other two aren't going with this, and realises that if he's going to make this 8 titles, he's got to hang on to Mo Farah here, because Mohammed is not going to help him. Bezabay's run his race at this point, and there, perhaps the battle that everyone had expected is starting to be joined here. Mo Farah of Great Britain, the winner. The one time that Lebed has not won this title in the last 8 years, he's won it on 7 other occasions, was when Mo Farah won it, and Lebed wants it back.
Well, Lebed is running as though he wants it back, but is he strong enough? Is he good enough? Mo Farah looks to me as though he's running brilliantly here in this race. He looks as though every time he comes to a hard part of the course, he sets it up. The British team in 3rd place, and that would be an overall a good performance, and the whole British team going home with medals would be a brilliant overall. But Mo Farah is stretching him. Now, when you make an effort like this, when you try and win it, and at some point in his mind he thinks he's going to win it. There's Mustafa Mohammed in 3rd place. There's Bezabay in 4th place. So Mo Farah's training partner is now dropping away as we look further down the field, and now it's a race one-on-one. Mo Farah, I think, has got the ability to be the best distance runner in Europe, and I think in that position he's then got the chance to become a world-class distance runner. He needs to show better on the big occasions. He's won this race before, and it would be brilliant if he was able to win it again, but Lebed knows how to win this race. He really does. He gets himself ready for it. He comes to it without training, as we watch Bob Tari going through, and Tickner running a really good race, running really, really well.
He is, Brendan, but I think there's a little bit of a charge on behind. If I think I can see Mike Skinner, he's running action a little bit. Brent's smiling at me now. It genuinely is in that group that are just making inroads into. Frank Tickner's in the top 10 now. He's done very well. He's got past Gera. But here's the battle. Mo Farah and Lebed. Who's going to take this one?
Steve, I think Mo's got to learn to run and think. It's all right being physically fit, which he clearly is. It's all right being a great talent, which he clearly is. I think he's got a great opportunity of becoming a truly world-class distance runner. I'm impressed with his ability. But what he's got to do now, he's got to think his way through the last lap. Now, what are you trying to do, Mo? What are you trying to achieve? There's the bell sounds. Now, what's in his mind? He's got a terrific sprint finish. You know, that's the other thing about Mo. He really can finish well. So he needs to put himself in a position where he can use his sprint finish. Now, here goes Lebed. He's moving quickly. You can see he's grimacing. He's under pressure. Mo physically is as good as Lebed, if not better. Mustafa Mohammed in 3rd, Bezabay in 4th, and the race at the front really is boiling and bubbling. And what's going to happen? Is Mo Farah going to let him join. If I was Mo Farah now, I'd let Lebed come alongside me. Just relax a little. Run away from him if you can, but if you can't, use your sprint finish. And Mo's got such a great range of talent that it would be fantastic to see him win this one by outwitting.
I think there's two things, Brent. I think you're absolutely right. I'd push on through the mud because I think he just covers the mud a bit better. But then I wouldn't slow down. But I agree with you. I would make Lebed keep working hard to close the 3-4 metre gap that I gain on the turns. He's getting around the turns and getting through the mud a bit quicker. And I think I'd then make Lebed work really hard, keep him tired, keep myself ready for the sprint finish as well, because undoubtedly for me, as long as Mo times it right, he's on occasion has mistimed his sprint finish, but he has the pace. Lebed's strong, we know he is, and he's not slow either. But given where they're at in their careers, I'd be surprised if Mo Farah couldn't sprint Sergei Lebed. But this guy, do not write him off. You know, you don't win 7 European cross-country titles without having a lot of guts and, of course, an awful lot of ability. You see there again, around that corner there, he gets around there better. Lebed has to work hard to close the gap down. I'd keep doing that. Mo's just looking a little bit more laboured at this point, to be fair.
Mo's a very, very good athlete, Steve. He's darting around this course. He's physically in fantastic shape. He's at the age when he should be winning these races. He tried to run away from him. Now it's time for Mo to think about it. And the best place to be when the sprint finish start is on the shoulder of the leader. It's not to be the leader because you've got an advantage coming from behind. Mustafa Mohammed, who I think squandered a lot of his energy running up and down the field. Bezzabeh wasn't able to go with it. Bob Tari coming through. Interestingly, Silva's now had enough. He can't hang on here. Butter, who's running for Netherlands, and now here they are, the two of them locked together in the later stages of the race. And for the first time, Sergei Lebed actually just gets himself in front. Now Mo just settled a little bit. He can win this race. It would be fantastic if he was able to win it, because I think it would propel him forward into 2007, into 2009 and 2010. 2 very important years for him, because this young man could grace the stadium in London in 2012. He's certainly got the ability to do that. He's certainly got the capacity to do that. He's desperately keen to do it. He's physically able to do it. Now, we just have to see Mo Farah time his finish here. That's what he's got to do.
All about the head now as much as anything else, isn't it? You've done your hard running. It's now about your confidence and your belief and timing it right. He just looks a little bit laboured there. Lebed knows that the danger is Mo Farah's finish, and look at this, the strength of this Ukrainian. Look at that. He's not going to hang around, and there he goes. He's won this title 7 times. He's not going to wait for the finish. He's not even going to give Mo Farah a sniff of a chance. Kicks on hard. That is very impressive indeed. Who could deny the man who's won this on 7 occasions? Quite remarkable to come back and do this again. Mo Farah, we knew was in good shape. We're hoping that he'd have the armoury to take on Lebed, but look at that. That is incredible. In the space of 200-300 metres, he's opened up a 50-metre lead just about.
Unbelievable way he's accelerated there. He's actually powered away from Mo Farah, who I thought should have just sat on his shoulder rather than the other way around. I think this is an exceptional run by Sergei Lebed. This is the race he loves to win. 8 times champion. We probably will never see anybody win this 8 times in the future. And Mo Farah's run a very, very good race. Physically, he's in great shape. I think he can do better.
He'll be very disappointed to have lost, but perhaps no shame in losing to Sergei Lebed. He wins for the 8th time the European cross-country title. Brilliant performance. Mo Farah takes the silver medal for Great Britain. He'll be looking behind to see who's behind him. It's his friend Mustafa Mohammed from Sweden, who's going to take the bronze medal. Lamdassen from Spain behind him. We're looking to see the next British athlete across the line. We're hoping that it's going to be Frank Tickner. There was a real charge going on. Mike Skinner was involved in that as well. The team race is going to be close, that's for sure. Desmet just coming in ahead of Tari. Bezzabeh from Spain. Silva of Portugal. Butter from Netherlands. And this is the next group. On Frank Tickner, he's really trying to work hard. He deserves his top 10 place. He's just about going to hang on to it. That's an excellent performance from Frank Tickner. That'll help the team race. 10th place for him. Mike Skinner was in that group a little further back as Britain's third counter, and then we'll have to see exactly where that leaves us as far as the teams are concerned. But I don't think we're going to be too far away. There's Mike Skinner. Good performance from him.
It certainly was, and here they are coming through. We're still looking down the field, and there's Fagan just finishing. He'll be very, very disappointed with that, because the fall in the early stages just was never able to recover from that. And we're looking for the other British athletes coming down the finishing straight. Who's going to prevail? Where's the team race result? Well, it's starting to head towards a medal, I'm pretty sure, for Great Britain.
Well, there were lots of contenders this year who were aiming to take the crown away from Sergei Lebed. As Phil Wicks just crossed the line as well, and as Brendan said, we'll try and clear up the team shortly. But how can you deny this man? 7 times before today, and for a while it looked as though he was a little bit tired, but this surge, Brendan, was just remarkable.
Exceptional. The two of them competing, they're racing a few times. He came under pressure, a quick glance over his shoulder, and you can just sense that acceleration by Sergei Lebed, and Mo Farah's wilted under that pressure. Mo Farah, I think, was running really well today. Physically, he's absolutely equal, if not better, than Sergei Lebed. But Lebed worked his way through. The only time he sniffed the front was when he came towards the end. He didn't go near the front when they were racing and sprinting and moving and changing the pace. He timed it perfectly. He ran perfectly. This is the race he wants to be. Is he the greatest European cross-country runner ever? He possibly is. He probably is. But here he comes home. He was so keen to win that one. In July, he decided this was the race he wanted to run. This was the one he wanted to win. And behind him, Mo Farah. Well, I've said it all about Mo Farah. I think he's an outstanding athlete. And I think if he can just take the other gear, which is tactics and mental preparation, I think we could see Mo Farah, even though he hasn't won this one, Lebed the champion, Mo Farah coming through in second place. And I think this is a great return to form by Mo Farah. I know now that this young man is such a talent, he just needs some assistance.
As long as he's not looking for training partners in this direction, I can say that much. It was a great day, though.